Hello, everybody. Welcome to this presentation from VanEck on changing tides in the defense industry. My name is Roel Houwer. I'm a senior product manager at VanEck. VanEck is an ETF provider, and we pride ourselves on developing products that are of added value to our clients and are innovative and usually passively managed to ensure a lower management fee. It's a privately owned company by the family VanEck in New York, and that enables us to be flexible and independent in our product offering. So one example would be our defense ETF. Today I'm going to go into more detail on the narrative of the investment case of investing in defense, and then I'll zoom in on our defense ETF and how we enable you as an investor to invest in the defense sector. So historically, the defense investment story has been a story of underinvestment. For decades, governments have spent too little on their defense capabilities, as you can see from this graph here. The underinvestment has recently changed to more investment into the defense sector, and that's all to do with the troubles there have been in the Ukraine, of course, but also the fact that the US and Trump leading that campaign, the US has said to other NATO countries, you need to adhere to the 2% GDP spending requirement on defense, and that really served as a sort of a wake-up call for governments other than the US in the NATO. So an example would be the EDIS, the European Defence Industrial Strategy. That is an attempt by the EU to, in a concerted effort, revamp the defense industry in the EU. So obviously, these kind of initiatives have a result of the defense sector growing, and that the growth is supported by three pillars, one of which is the public opinion changing. Another one would be the government and political environment being more favorable to increased investing in defense. And then there's long-term drivers of the growth of the industry. But first of all, the pillar, the public opinion. So as an example, this is the research done by the Bundeswehr in Germany, so the German army, on the support for increased defense spending in Germany. So if you look at to the left, so around 2001, obviously there were the September 11 attacks in the US. You saw a spike in support for increased defense spending, and that dissipated afterwards a little bit. But ever since Russia invaded the Crimea in 2014, you see a steady growth of support in increased defense spending. And this is Germany as an example, because obviously in Germany, spending on defense has been a sensitive subject ever since the Second World War. But also this counts for the whole of Europe. So also for the UK, obviously also in Poland, Poland leading the pack in defense spending. Now 4.5% of GDP is spent on local defense. So these graphs are just to exemplify a trend that's happening all over the NATO countries. So as mentioned, the second pillar that supports the growth of the defense sector is the political environment favoring increased investment. So here you see on the screen a number of remarks or news events that we just grabbed, but we could have picked from a multitude of examples that governments are committing to more investment in defense. I already gave the example of EDIS, and that is an initiative especially supported by Mrs. von der Leyen. But last year, me and my colleagues were at an event where Rob Bauer, who is an admiral, who used to be an admiral for the Dutch military and now works for the military committee of NATO. And he mentioned, for example, that Russia is already changed to a war economy, and calling on the pension fund industry in particular for that event to invest more money in the sector. So where it used to be a sort of a no-go area and very unpopular for politicians to even mention spending on defense, it now is something they pride themselves on, and also that nurtures the environment, the political environment favoring increased investments. So the third pillar is a very important one. There's a number of long-term drivers that drive the increased demand for the defense products and the whole defense sector as a whole. Couple of known ones that are at the forefront of everybody's minds, but for example, Russia-NATO tensions, increased cyber attacks every year, and I'll get back to cyber attacks and the innovative and the more IT side of modern warfare in a minute. And another one would be the US-China strategic competition, so especially aimed at, of course, Taiwan. Other examples that we can see are a slowdown of globalization ever since COVID, climate change. Obviously, climate change will result in natural disasters, for example, floodings, and that will necessitate military to intervene or to help out future pandemics. I can remember, for example, getting my first shot, my vaccination for COVID from someone from the British military, but also record levels of sovereign debt. So reasoning there being that financial instability is often a source of increased geopolitical tensions. And obviously that results in the necessity of more defense capabilities for countries. So how do we at VanEck offer the opportunity to actually invest in the defense sector? We have three very important aspects and sides of our investment strategy. One is that we perform revenue analysis, and only companies are invested in that generate at least 50% of their revenues from military or defense industries. Second very important part is that we invest in a passive way, which means that the strategy is rules-based. So that offers the investor transparency, because you know exactly in which companies will be invested and which won't be invested in. An example of one of those rules is the 50% revenue threshold. 25 stocks are invested in at a minimum, currently even 28, and that ensures for the investors that it is a diversified investment strategy. And then last but not least, we apply a controversy and a controversial weapon screen, and that is based on ISS research. ISS is a very renowned company in the field of ESG research and the application of screens. So those controversy and controversial weapons screen result in, on one side, that the strategy doesn't invest in companies that are in violation or in imminent violation of UN Global Compact principles or the OECD guidelines for multinational enterprises. And then you have the controversial weapons screen. That means that the strategy of the ETF won't invest in companies that are involved in the production of biological, chemical weapons. And the other examples are here: cluster or incendiary weapons, anti-personnel mines, depleted uranium, white phosphorus, and nuclear weapons outside of the non-proliferation treaty. This results in 8 exclusions. 2 prominent examples are BAE Systems and Rheinmetall. Both of these companies have announced that they will cease their involvement in, for example, white phosphorus for BAE Systems and white phosphorus and depleted uranium for Rheinmetall. So there's a very good chance that these companies will be added somewhere next year. Out of the 8 exclusions that these screens result in, 5 of them actually add value, so not investing in them add value to the performance of the strategy, and 3 of them, and Rheinmetall is an example of those, cost somewhat performance. However, on average, we believe that this will net out to around 0 performance contribution. I already mentioned cyber attacks previously. The strategy is very sophisticated in the sense that it also takes into account the modern aspects of warfare. Modern being the IT sides of things, so cybersecurity, but also intelligence, warfare, and analytics and event response software. So the strategy invests for 10% in IT sector. Here you see an overview of the performance of our ETF. It was launched in March 2023, and you can see that ever since the launch date, it resulted in a performance of more than 65% in return. And the strategy has grown from 6 million. 6 million was the seeding capital provided by the owner of our company. As I mentioned, it's a very offers us flexibility in launching products like these. And we've now grown to over $1 billion in assets under management. Defense, our defense ETF, so the VanEck Defense UCITS ETF, is only one example of the products that we offer through mBank. And here you see the offering of all our products that you can acquire through mBank. I hope to have given you some good information on our defense product. For any questions, please feel free to contact us, and I'm happy to help out. Thank you very much for your attention.